Okay, so several months ago, we did an update video about MGK and his girlfriend at the time, Megan Fox, doing a blood ritual. Now, what we updated was the fact that they did this bizarre blood ritual several years ago, talked about drinking each other's blood.
Like, people are imagining us with like goblets and we're like Game of Thrones drinking each other's blood. It's just a few drops, but yes, we do consume each other's blood on occasion for ritual purposes only.
Laughed about it, thought it was all good. And this, in my opinion, was clearly satanic, clearly demonic activities to be doing these weird rituals. That led to some of you guys saying, Ruslan, this is satanic panic. What are you talking about? And in reality, it was what it was, which was an actual weirdo, demonic, cultish ritual. Now, since then, they've unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at the situation, have broken up.
Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly have officially broken up for like the 50th time.
And in all of this, it appears that MGK, yes, the rapper that once upon a time drank his significant other's blood and would cut himself open for her.
He's much more haphazard and hectic and chaotic, where he's willing to just like cut his chest open with broken glass and be like, take my soul, let me bleed on you. It doesn't not happen, let me tell you. Maybe not exactly like that, but a version of that has happened many times.
Maybe, seemingly, coming back to faith. Faith in what? Faith in Jesus. The faith that he grew up with as a kid. What many people don't know about MGK is that he actually grew up raised by two missionaries. Pretty interesting, isn't it? For someone to be raised in a Christian home, but not just a Christian home, in a Christian home by missionaries, and then drift so far like he did. And so we're going to look at a new song he just released with NF, going over his journey with God. But before we do that, I would be a bad friend if I didn't tell you about our brand new Black Friday sale that's happening this week. This is some of our Bless God from the Summit apparel that's here. But what I really want to highlight to you guys is our Bless God Discipleship Bundle, which combines my 60-day devotional as well as our prayer journal and our leadership planner. So what's awesome about this is if you are looking to just get through the entire narrative of Scripture, you can do that in the 60-day devotional and journal, as well as pick up a prayer journal for a friend or a spouse or a loved one and get a leadership planner. So this is available now. The quantity on these are limited. We also have very limited copies of my brand new book, Godly Ambition, signed copies, limited signed copies on sale. All of this is available right now for our Black Friday sale. So hit the link in the pinned comment, do some shopping before some of this stuff runs out, and we're already starting to sell out of the books and a couple of other bundles. So blessgod.co. Let's jump into this conversation. I saw this trending, and this is on Godly Vibe Studio. Shout out to them. I saw Christ XL, I think, cover this. So this says, MGK raps about coming back to God on new song with NF. Now, I can't play you guys this song because, NF's team will probably strike it, but I want to highlight the lyrics directly from this song. So these are the lyrics on Genius. The song is off of NF's new album. It's called Who Was I? MGK's lyric says, I'm stuck in traffic trying to find my way to a home that I've never known on a GPS with no address. So I'll follow my heart, but my heart is scattered. It's interesting that he is acknowledging that following your heart, which the world celebrates, is actually not good for you. That following your heart will often lead you astray. And Jeremiah talks about what is more deceptive than the human heart, right? And so he's acknowledging that following your heart's not a great idea. He says, like my father's ashes in the back of the rental after I dropped his urn. So it appears that his father passed away. I don't know much about MGK's story, but if his father was the missionary that he grew up with, it's interesting that there was a drift in his faith, and perhaps that was connected to his parents passing away, or at least his dad passing away. Probably a metaphor for everything I've learned. Look how the only love I'll have is going to crash and burn, or how the poorest I felt was after the worst I've earned. The poorest I felt after the most I've earned. It's interesting that Proverbs says that an inheritance attained too early in life is not a blessing in the end. And of course, MGK initially started out as a rapper. He had a massive beef with Eminem. He was signed to Diddy's label. I'm sure there's probably some internal conflicts he's probably felt there. And then he pivoted over, started making rock music after that, and got even bigger. And he's saying that, man, poorest he's felt is after the most he's earned. It says, the biggest lie I told is that no one should be concerned. There's got to be another way that don't lead to hell. Well, there is. MGK. A star to lead me through the darkest night like Christian Bell. I wonder if this is a reference. Sounds like a reference to the Christmas story. I don't know. I hid from God for more than 2 decades of life. When I came back to the light, he didn't ask me if I'm Christian still. Nice little wordplay. Led to hell, Christian Bell, Christian still. Just opened up his arms and embraced me like I'm his son. So this is a nod, I believe, to the parable of the prodigal son. We could look at that later. Erasing all the archetypes of what people like me become. Since I was young, my personality split like serpent's tongue, but all the poison in my body still ain't make me numb. I lost a best friend and felt all that, crying on his open casket while I knelt on that. I had a best man picked out for my wedding, but instead of getting married, I carried guilt and left all that. So I'm assuming this is regarding his relationship to Megan Fox, which, in my opinion, I think that was a great thing to end since they were drinking each other's blood. And all of this seems to be leading back to MGK, hopefully, God willing, coming back to the faith. But instead of getting married, I carried guilt and left all that. A vagabond that broke a bond for Boca Raton. Boca Raton's a place, I want to say, in Florida. So I'm assuming that maybe he's just alluding to cheating on his girlfriend or something in Florida. I don't know what that means. Let's see if Genius knows. I like these Genius things. It's a city in South Florida. It serves a specific tangible place where the decision was made or where that stable life abandoned. It gives a geographic anchor to the emotional fallout. Interesting. Who also regretted he never kept all that. I left everything behind, put this engagement ring and a frozen heart. I'm standing in the fire to melt all that. Interesting. Let's see if they pick up on the reference to the prodigal son here. He's saying that after a lifetime of running away from God, of his strict childhood, he had a spiritual reawakening. He realized that the light or God was not the strict judgmental figure he was raised to fear, but something that accepted him unconditionally, erasing all the archetypes of what people like me become. It's a statement of him finding his way, more accepting version of faith after decades of rebellion. And goodness gracious, has NF had decades of rebellion. So I want to point to the story of the prodigal real quick because it's an amazing story. I would say that's directly Jesus foreshadowing the gospel story, which is 2 sons living together. It's in the book of Luke, and they are going through life, and one of them wants his inheritance early. Now, that's significant because attaining your inheritance early is also connected to that verse I talked about in Proverbs, which is an inheritance too early in life is not a blessing in the end. Meaning if you get rich quick, if you get a bunch of money early on in your life, it's actually not good. That Proverbs talks about how money made little by little is better. If you're going to gain wealth, it's better to attain it little by little than just getting it all at once. And so the parable of the prodigal has 2 brothers, one of which asked for his inheritance from his father, which in a way is actually very insulting to the father because it is basically saying, hey, I wish you were dead, basically. And so he asks for his inheritance. The father grants him his inheritance. He goes off and lives a wild life. He spends his money on prostitutes, on drinking, and runs out of money, ultimately landing in a pigsty, eating the food of the pigs, and which is very, very awful for a young Jewish boy in this context. And so he decides, hey, maybe I'll come back and be just a hired hand in my father's home because at least they get real food and not pig food. And so while he is coming back, the father sees him and something crazy happens. Luke 15:17 says, when he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. So he got up and went to his father. So he's rehearsing this speech. He discovers that he came to the end of himself and he wants to go back. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him, put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and he is found. So they began to celebrate. So it's beautiful that from a very far distance, the father in the story goes and embraces the son. The father runs to the son, which was not something that a dignified older Jewish man would do in this context. And he brings him a robe and he celebrates him. Now, the son just wanted to be a hired hand, but he's embraced back as a member of the family. Now, here's something that's interesting that's going to happen here. And I see it happen all the time. When someone like Kat Von D comes to faith, when hopefully, God willing, MGK comes to faith, you have this older brother syndrome. The brother that did everything right. They didn't go anywhere. They followed all the rules. They checked all the boxes. Meanwhile, the older brother was in the field. When he became near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed a fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound. The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him. My son, the father said, you are always with me and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. That's the beautiful part about the story, is that the older brother, I would argue that this is, in the story, Jesus is talking to two different crowds here. He's talking to both the Pharisees and the sinners. And so as the sinner is coming back to faith, the more religious type, the folks that have been in the synagogue and following all the rules, sometimes have hostility. And I would hope that when we see folks like MGK, God willing, come to faith, or when we see folks that were really into some dark stuff, like a Kat Von D come to faith, that it would not be something that Christians would be upset about. We would actually rejoice because someone that was lost is now found. And that brings me great hope because all of us were at one point lost. Even those of us that maybe grew up Christian, followed the rules, did all the things, you still need a savior outside of yourself because you cannot save yourself. That is what the gospel story is ultimately all about. And so let me know what you guys think about this. And again, don't forget to shop our Black Friday sale, which is happening right now. Get yourself some brand new Bless God from the Summit merch. Get yourself a prayer journal or devotional, one of the hats. We just got these hats back, by the way. Forrest Frank wore one of these and they completely sold out, and now we have them back in stock. So that's available now, blessgod.co. And if you want to see the previous video where people crashed out, MGK fans crashed out on us because we said that this is demonic, we'll have this posted over here. All right, we'll see you over there. Peace.